What's up, guys? This is Jeremy with Anvil's Adventures.
I'm Tony White with the Big T Life.
I'm Josh with at Sarge Off Road.
All right, so we got some questions we're going to try to answer for you guys. We've had you've got kind of three different ways of doing things with the three of us here. You got gear for everything, and then truck camping, a little bit of hiking, minimalist at times. So we got kind of a little bit of everything. So I'm trying to go over a few things some of the things that are a little bit frustrating at camp, different things like that. So I'm going to ask some questions and then let these guys kind of go over the kind of what they use or what they think about the question. So what do you bring for somebody that's wants to do this but don't know what to do? They see videos of all the guys that's got all the gear. They see the guys that are minimalist. What do you got to bring? So what do you have to bring to enjoy yourself at camp? And if you're, for whatever you're doing, whether you're going to be hiking some or you're going to be doing more of the kind of style of what we do, where you're wheeling and that kind of stuff, and you're doing more overlanding truck camping type stuff. So start with you. What do you got to have to enjoy yourself?
For me, I gotta have something to eat. I'm not a little fella, so I have a refrigerator. I've done the cooler with ice, but the refrigerator is just, for me, a lot handier. I got a fancy stove. I use that, and so I'm the one that brings a lot of the gear. I got a little bit of everything. So those are the necessities for me. I got to have a stove. I got to have a refrigerator. I got to be able to eat. Cast iron. That's kind of my thing.
What's the thing that you think somebody needs to think about and as far as gear goes, there's cheap to expensive. You usually lean towards getting the higher end, better stuff. I usually stick, sometimes depending on what it is, I kind of go the middle of the road. What is your opinion on that as far as when, hey, somebody's just now getting started out? Do you buy once, cry once, or do you go a little cheaper because you may get out and decide, hey, I don't like this, and you haven't spent a bunch of money? So what's your opinion on that?
Well, when I started on the cheaper end, and because if you've never done this, you don't know if you're going to like it or not. So I do believe that not always. There's a lot of times you get what you pay for. Sometimes you don't. Amazon is a great source to get something cheap to start, and that's how I started. I started out cheap, and then as soon as I said, okay, I'm about this is what I want to do, then I was like, okay, what's the better gear to get? And that's kind of how I started.
Okay. All right, now kick it over to the minimalist side. What do you got to have to come out here and do this?
So kind of my camping started more about backpack camping, and then I got into some truck camping. But for me, you got to have a pretty good sleep system. I think that's what's most important to me. And so even if I'm backpacking and I'm in my tent, I want to make sure that I have a good pad. So currently on this trip, I'm truck camping, so I'm in my camper topper, and it's about a 2.5-inch foam pad that's in there. Plus I have a sleeping bag on top of that, and then I'm in another sleeping bag. So I really do have a comfortable sleep system in there. So that's really important. From the cooking side, see, I don't put as much importance on that. So I can go very minimalist with that. So I do have a Coleman 2-burner in my truck camper, but I also just have the little backpacking stove, because most of the time what I can do is just boil some water, and I use backpacking meals, or have some water for my coffee. I may even make sandwiches before I leave home and just pack them individually for the trip. So just to make it easy, quick for me, and that's kind of the way my food system works. But most important, I think, for me, is the sleep system.
Okay. That's kind of I'm kind of on the middle of the road there. My favorite part about doing this is cooking at camp, but if you don't get good sleep, you're not going to enjoy your trip. But a lot of people don't want to eat Mountain House meals and things like that, right. MREs, ramen, whatever you want to call it, noodles. So a lot of people don't want to do that. so you can have an elaborate meal. You can eat steak, baked potatoes, baked food. You know, we baked cookies at camp last night. So you can do anything. It's just when you have more gear, it's more to carry.
Yeah.
You got more money involved, so you kind of have to find that sweet spot. What's good for you? Where do we go? Where do you go? So one of the things that I won't say we struggle with, but at least in Tennessee, we don't have like it's not like out west where you can take a whole state and 75% of it's public land. Tennessee's not like that, so you're more limited now. So, and not everybody can just break away and take off for 4 or 5 days to go without really planning and and all that. So, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think one thing is if you know people, which we all do around here, that's got some farmland, and generally you can find somewhere just to get away, from your town, your city, little community where you live. Try to get away from some of the light pollution. Josh and I, we really appreciate that because we're the stargazers out of this bunch. In fact, we were down at this spot a couple of nights ago, and before it got cloudy, and just laid out here on this bank for a while. But I think that's important. So it's really just to find anywhere to get away, and it doesn't have to be some state park or anything like that. It's just anywhere where you can get out and just set up and be quiet and just live off the stuff that you're carrying on your back or in your truck, and that's it.
Yeah. Another good point about what Tony just said is, especially when you're starting out, if you can find somewhere to go that's a friend or a family member that does have a farm, just to get you out to see if you like this, because you don't want to invest a lot of time and money in the gear and going places to get there and then like, oh, I really don't enjoy this. So I think that's a good way to start.
And this kind of leads into the next question. One of the things Tony said, kind of that he put in there, kind of being quiet, camp etiquette. So if Tony's done a lot by himself, he's been on trips, he's done things where he's out for a week or two and he's by himself. You don't have to worry about camp etiquette as much because you're, like you just said, you can be as quiet or as loud as you want. You're not affecting anybody. When you bring a group like we had this weekend, everybody's been great, but there's certain things to think about, and you don't realize it until you have people that either, I mentioned it earlier in another video as I was kind of walking around, is especially if you're going with people you don't normally hang around with. So like this group was a group of guys from church that we kind of got together that wanted to get out. Some guys that have camped a lot and hadn't. So some of them really never camped, but they wanted to kind of get into it. So it's like they're learning. So just learning that, hey, when you get up in the morning, some people are early risers, some people are not. I'm a night owl. These guys are probably more
Go to bed early,
get up early.
Age has something to do
Yeah.
with that.
So realizing, hey, I'm going to open my truck door. I don't have to open my truck door and slam it back while there's other people at camp. Let's not holler across camp to each other if 2 or 3 of you up and there's 2 or 3 people asleep. So think about those type of things. That's just be considerate. That's something you should do in your daily life, whether you're at camp or not. But especially when you're at camp and everybody's trying to relax in their own way, and everybody's going to have their own way to do that. So, like, I'm kind of like his wife. Like, I don't want to talk to anybody till I've had my coffee. I want to get my coffee ready. I want to be quiet, get good and awake, and there's some people when their feet hit the floor, they are 100-mile-an-hour. Let's go. So. But I will say that as me and him are brothers, but we're polar opposites in that way. He fully understands he's at camp. Hey, he gets up. If he starts doing his thing, he does it quietly. And until everybody's up, and then the cutting up and the laughing or whatever can start. But
I had to think about that a little bit this morning because, my truck's pulled right up beside your camp, your Jeep and tent. And so I was wanting to make me some coffee, and I'm getting out my Coleman stove, and I did something, and it clanged really loud. And I thought, oh, I got to be quieter than this, so yeah.
It's just something, it's just being considerate. Because some people, it rained on us all night last night. Some people slept really good because of that, and some people didn't sleep at all. one of the guys at camp had an issue. He got soaking wet in the middle of the night. So some people were up all night, so they may be a little more grumpy because they didn't get sleep. So just trying to be considerate of that type of thing. Trail etiquette. Now, this goes for the backpacking, if we're out wheeling and that kind of stuff. For one, whatever you're bringing out there, make sure you're bringing it back. So, like, we stopped and ate lunch while we was out yesterday. We made sure we got all of our stuff up. If you have time and you can, clean up what you see. I mean, it's not a cleanup mission every time you come out here, but like the campsite we're at now, there was some stuff we'll probably kind of try to clean up it a little bit. So that's something to think about. And follow whatever the laws are to where you're at. If you're at a state park and you see something and you're like, I really want to go over there, that looks like a fun trail, but it says, but there's either on any of your maps you've got or at the trail, the start of the trail, it says, hey, no motorized vehicles, stuff like that. Just follow the rules. That's because it's doing things like that that'll get stuff shut down. And so, and if we all want to keep enjoying this, we need to, I am one of those people. I want to be a free American. I want to be able to do my thing and be a free man. And it sucks sometimes, but hey, it's just part of it. I mean, if we want to keep these, I mean, the state parks, they do their things for a reason.
And some states are more conservative with that. Some states are more open to let you do stuff.
Yeah.
Tennessee's not one of those states. We're very conservative in that.
Yeah, like like the state of Tennessee, you can't disperse camp at all in the state parks unless it's, I mean, it's
Gotta be marked
it's got to be marked.
campsites.
Yeah, it's got to be marked campsites. Like there's a lot of, one of the parks we go to closer to home is Natchez Trace. There's a bunch of awesome camp spots, but you can't camp.
Yeah.
You have to stay in a designated campground. And you can, we've had
We've done that.
great times at a campground. But you know, it's not ideal of what we want to do, but you can have a good time at a campground. But just remember those things. Follow if a trail's closed, if the gate's closed, don't open it. If it's unlocked, if it's closed for a reason, for whatever. So just kind of remember those things. One of the guys that was with us doesn't do this all the time. But you know, there was a couple of things he was asking about, and I was like, no, you can't do that. And so I kind of had to explain. That's another thing. You bring in a group of people with you, you may have to explain to them. You know, that a lot of people don't know. They see something fun, they want to go do it. Just, hey, let everybody know, hey, these are the things you can and can't do.
Even as simple as building a fire.
Yes, yeah. I mean,
So around here, we can't just haul in our wood from anywhere outside of the state park. So that's not allowed. So you have to have wood from within the park. So some down wood that's in here, or you got to purchase kiln dried wood to burn because of insect moving across the
Yeah.
forest. And, so
Yeah,
some people don't understand that.
Yeah, and it's like, hey, I've got a good friend of mine, an older guy that's got a bunch of farmland, and he's kind of very unique on how he looks at his land. He's like, this land was here before I got here. All the animals that are out there were probably there before I owned it. So he's not a tree hugger type guy, but he's like, hey, it's their land just as much as it is mine. So he lets people hunt occasionally to kind of keep things, because that's kind of a good thing to do. But he's kind of like, hey, this is the land. So you need to be considerate of that. You need to, when you're out here doing this kind of stuff, you need to be considerate of, hey, this is, even down to the worms and all that kind of stuff. They're here for a reason. So be considerate of the stuff. Don't just come like a bull in a china shop when you get out here. And no matter what, pick up your trash, whatever you bring. Whatever you bring, make sure you're bringing it out with you. That's huge. That'll get some stuff shut down pretty quick. Summer, winter, spring, fall. What's your ideal camping time? This is going to be just a personal preference, but what's your...
Personally, myself, I like the fall because fall's my favorite time of the year. However, the downside to fall camping is most places you go, that's when hunting season started. A lot of trails are closed then for hunting, if it's depending on where you're located. But as far as the weather goes, fall's my favorite time to go.
Fall is also my favorite time to go. Of course, I just like the way the trees are, it looks, and there's always this, to me, there's a smell of fall, and the leaves when they first start getting down. if it's damp like this, and so I really enjoy that. But really, even like this weekend has been great. I mean, here we are in January,
Yeah.
and it was 40 degrees last night, so that's fine. You know, when you got to wear a jacket and a beanie to stay warm a little bit, that's okay. You don't have to worry about insects. Camper and tent doors can be open. You don't have to worry about things coming in and out. So that makes it enjoyable too. So
That's my thing. I probably because I work out in it all the time. I hate summertime heat in Tennessee, and I cannot like. I'm trying to do everything I can to extend my camping seasons. In Tennessee's, we just have. I mean, we have like we get some of the extreme heats that you get out west, but we get the humidity on top of it, and it just makes it for an awful experience sometimes. Then dealing with the bugs, like Tony said, so all that. So I'm in like I like winter camping. Like if there was snow on the ground, it adds other factors and aggravation sometimes. But like it's probably the slowest time you'll see when you're out in these places because it's not even the campground. If you're in campgrounds, the campgrounds are not going to be full. Most people are not out there, and if you're dispersed camping, I mean, we've been up here for basically, we'll be up here for 2.5 days and haven't seen another group camping.
Campsite. Yeah. No.
We went by the Wrangler campsite where for the horses and stuff, and there were, I mean, that's a huge campground, and there was 10 or 15 people camping. Yeah. So so if you want to get out when there's not a lot of people, to me, winter's the best time to do it. And we have some extreme cold, but for the most part, now if I was in Colorado, I probably would not be saying I like winter camping.
We have camped when it was in the teens though.
And that goes back to having the right gear and that kind of stuff. I mean, it's like the last time we were out, all of us were out together that night. It was about 16, I think. Yeah. And for the most part, we stayed warm. We hung around campfire, and that's where it goes back to the gear of having I mean, there are a few things that you should really consider if you're going to be, depending on the environment you're going to be in. All that stuff can change. If you're in an environment you never get extreme cold weather, you don't need to worry about getting a high dollar expensive sleeping bag that's going to keep you warm at night if that's not an issue. So got to think about those things. What else y'all got? Y'all think of anything?
The main thing is just whatever. If you're just thinking about doing it, you just got to get out and do it. So just get you a little gear, even if you got to start in your backyard, just to see, hey, how does this sleeping bag work for me at night? How does this tent hold up to some water getting in it, or just whatever? You just start trying out some things, and then you can move from your backyard to some state park or something like that. So you just got to try it. But to me, I think it's worth it, whatever you do.
Yeah. There's enough videos out there and podcasts and different things on this that all your questions should be. I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds of YouTubers out there doing this that have good information and good reviews on products. I'm kind of in a transition phase right now. I mean, I've been doing this several years and been using just a cheap 30-degree sleeping bag even in the cold nights, but I have a diesel heater, so that's been fine for me. But I'm kind of now looking at more expensive sleeping bags and sleeping systems.
And that's another thing. It's like, so you have a nice sleeping bag, and which you've got a diesel heater now. It's funny because Minimalist now starts hanging out with the gear snob. His minimalist mentality has changed a little bit, so he's kind of got some more of those. But now going into your truck, you've got room to do it. So doing more of that instead of just backpacking. But that's one of those things. Hey, a diesel heater. Hey, you gotta have diesel. It's one more thing you gotta have. So you got to think about that. Hey, you're going to buy
one more thing that can spill in your truck.
Which you'll see about that when you watch this video. So there's pros and cons to everything, and there's different ways to do. That's why it's like one of the guys is with us. He's sleeping in his Hummer, and he loves it. He loves it. He doesn't have a tent. He has a tent, and I mentioned to him, I was like, why don't you sleep in there? And he's like, since I said that to him, he's like, that's a good idea. and now he's getting it set up for doing that. So,
Right.
so there's different ways to go about doing things. And going back to what Tony said about just doing it, we've all watched Trail Recon. We all watch we like the Story Till Now, Ozark Overland Adventures. We watch all those guys, and for a good year, that's all I did was watch and wish that I was doing it. And I finally just made up my mind. I didn't have everything I needed to do it. I just made up my mind. I'm gonna go do this. I think I'll enjoy it, and I started doing it. Now I bought a Jeep and I've started doing things, buying the stuff. But you can sit on your couch and watch everybody else doing it, or you can do like we're doing. We're not making money doing this. I mean, it's costing us money. We have to be intentional about doing it. But hey, when we're out here, we enjoy it. I think it's, other than our time we spend with our families, I know for me, it's my most enjoyable time I have in my life is when I'm out here doing this. So
To add to that, one of the things that when Tony answered me ago, I was thinking, and I don't guess I've done this, but I've just done it mentally. If you are just starting, make you a list of things that you're looking forward to in doing this, And then something else I would say is don't do it once and have a miserable experience and not try it again, because bad things do happen. I mean, on this trip, we've had different issues happen for different people. So your first time out, you could have a bad experience, but that just could be that one time. So, say, hey, I'm going to give this 3 tries or 5 tries, and over those 3 or 5 times, then you can, don't just say one time you had a bad experience, oh, this isn't for me, because it might wind up being for you. You just had a bad experience that one time. So,
and do it as I would suggest if you're starting, do it as a minimalist, because when you get out there, it's like I told all the guys the guys that don't do it, I've told them, they're like, what do I need to bring? Bring you some food, bring yourself, get here, make sure you're self-sufficient enough to eat and
place to
sleep. And we'll go from there, because I mean, there's guys that camp with their campers all the time, then that's what they're going to continue to do, but they may occasionally, so there's no reason for them to go spend hundreds of dollars buying stuff if they're going to do this once or twice a year. If they're in a group of people that can help them out a little bit. Now, some people don't want people using their stuff, and hey, that's fine. We spend good money on it, so we want our stuff taken care of. So kind of have to play that as how you do it. But just learn, take the process of every time, hey, this would have been better if I had this, or if I didn't have to bring my pillows off of my bed. Maybe I need to have a dedicated pillow. Maybe I need to have a dedicated blanket while I'm at camp instead of one of them that we use at home. Just little things like that, you'll start to realize
what makes it easier.
What makes it easier for you. Hey, and some people go super fast on stuff. Some people are super like, he is boom, 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 boom. Like, and I'm 2 years into having my Jeep, and I still have a ton of plans of things I'm going to do in the gear that I want. But that's just how I do things. So, but I guess we want to just kind of throw that info out there. Maybe y'all enjoyed this video. I don't know if Tony's gonna. I don't know if Tony will have it on his channel or not, but we may put it on both our channels. I don't know. We'll see how we want to do that, but I'll give you 2 places to watch it. So, got Sarge Off Road on Instagram. He's gonna start posting more. He's shaking his head, but I'm telling him he's going to. Because every time I do anything with his Gladiator, people love it. So I don't know. He ought to be doing some more, because he's got a cool truck. So, but of course, Anvil's Adventures, and
and the Big T Life.
So go like, subscribe, hit the notifications so you see everything that we're doing. We got more stuff planned. Going to continue to do this. I know I've got some big trips planned. I hope maybe some of these 2 guys will show up with me on some of it. So we're going to bring this group out camping some more places. So thanks for watching.
All right.
Have a good one.